All right, welcome. So you're gearing up for your aesthetics licensing exam? Perfect. You're exactly where you need to be. We're going to cut through all the fluff today and get right to the golden rules. The absolute non-negotiable stuff that every single pro has to know, live, and breathe. So let's just jump right in with a pretty serious question, right? What is the actual difference between an amazing glowing facial and a trip to the emergency room? Well, it all boils down to one thing: professional judgment. And that judgment, it's built on a rock-solid foundation of rules. And those rules are exactly what your state board exam is designed to test. And look, let's be super clear about this. This isn't just about being a good esthetician. We're talking about the law here. The licensing board doesn't mince words. They say, and I quote, "Failure to consult properly can lead to injury, legal liability, and disciplinary action." This isn't a friendly suggestion, okay? This is the absolute bedrock of having a safe, legal, and long-lasting career.
Okay, so where does all this big shot professional judgment actually start? It begins before a single drop of product ever touches your client's face. It all starts right here with the consultation.
Seriously, you need to think of the consultation like a pilot's pre-flight check. It is 100% not optional. It's doing a bunch of things at once. First, it's protecting your client. But just as important, it's protecting you from liability. This is where you spot all the red flags, and it's where you get that critical informed consent down on paper before you even think about starting. And right at the heart of that whole pre-flight check is a word you have got to burn into your brain: contraindication. It's actually really simple. It just means any condition that makes a service unsafe to perform. That's it. Understanding this is absolutely critical for your exam. So, what do you actually do when you find a contraindication? Well, you've got 3 and only 3 professional options. You can modify, you can postpone, or you can refuse. So let's say it's just some mild sensitivity. Okay, you can probably modify the service. A pretty bad sunburn? You gotta postpone. But what about a contagious condition or open sores? The only right answer is to refuse the service. I promise you, your exam is going to test you on making this exact judgment call. And this brings us to a classic exam trap. So listen up. The biggest mistake you can make is implying that you'd skip or rush the consultation. You have to remember, the correct answer to any scenario question is always going to start with a thorough consultation. No ifs, ands, or buts. No exceptions. All right, so now that we've got that foundation down, let's talk about the facial itself. We're talking about the unbreakable order of things. Look, the licensing exam couldn't care less about your fancy signature massage technique. It cares about one thing: did you follow the correct, safe sequence every single time? And here it is, the exact sequence. You're going to want to take a mental picture of this, maybe even write it down. It follows a perfect, logical path, right? You consult first, then you cleanse, so you can actually see the skin for your analysis. Only then do you get into the fun stuff like exfoliation, massage, and the rest. Trust me, if you mix this order up on the exam, it's an automatic wrong answer. Okay, let's zoom in on a really high-stakes step: extractions. The rule here is so simple and so absolute. You can work on things like blackheads, non-inflamed comedones, but you never, ever, ever touch inflamed acne, infected spots, or any kind of broken skin. Trying to be a hero and extract those, it's not just dangerous for the client, it is an automatic you fail on your practical exam. Here's another one, another exam trap that gets so many people. After any kind of exfoliation, the skin is basically brand new and super vulnerable to the sun. So forgetting to put on sunscreen after a daytime service, that's not a little oops. In the eyes of the state board, that's negligence. Don't be that person. So what happens if things go sideways in the middle of a facial? The client's skin gets all red or they say something feels off. What do? There's a mantra in this profession that you have to live by: safety overrides service completion. It means you stop immediately. You get that product off, you apply a cool towel, you handle the reaction. You never, ever just push through to finish. Okay, let's move on to massage. And look, in a professional setting, this is way more than just a nice, relaxing touch. It's a technical procedure that demands real judgment. And that means knowing not just how to do the movements, but maybe more importantly, when you absolutely should not. You can bet your license that the exam is going to ask you about the primary massage movements. So, quick rundown. Effleurage, that's the light, gliding one for relaxing. Petrissage, think of kneading dough. It gets the circulation going. And tapotement, that's the quick, rhythmic tapping. Just knowing those three definitions, that's some easy points right there for you on the test. Now, let's talk about the most critical part of massage, when to keep your hands off. If your client has inflamed acne, rosacea, a sunburn, any kind of broken skin, massage is completely, totally off the table. Doing a massage on any of those things isn't just dangerous and a good way to spread bacteria, it's a guaranteed way to fail your exam.
And yep, you guessed it, this leads to another exam trap. They'll give you a scenario, right? A client with clearly inflamed skin who says, "Oh, but I really want a massage." The only, I repeat, only correct answer is to politely say no and explain why it's unsafe. Knowing when to stop is just as important as knowing how to start.
Okay, so let's pull all this together. We've talked about consultations, the facial steps, massage, no-goes. It can feel like a lot. But really, it all boils down to one single core idea. So when you're sitting in that exam room and you're staring at a question and you're just not sure, I want you to remember this. Every single rule, every procedure we've gone over, it all comes down to one guiding principle. It's the key to every decision.
And that principle is safety. That's it. Every question they ask, every procedure, every step on that exam is designed to test one thing and one thing only. Can we trust you to keep the public safe? If you let that one word, safety, guide every answer you give, you're going to pass.
All right, let's do a quick pop quiz. This is a super common type of question. Ready? Which massage movement is the light, gliding one? Think about it for a sec. You got it? The answer is effleurage, right? That's that nice, relaxing movement you use to start and end the massage. See? Simple memorization, but hey, a point is a point, and you don't want to leave any on the table. So I'm going to leave you with this one last thing to think about as you study. The rules themselves, they're pretty clear, but the real test, it's all about your mindset. Ask yourself, are you thinking like a client who just wants to get a service done? Or are you thinking like a licensed professional whose number one job is to protect? Making that mental shift, that's everything.